apps that are actually books. So like one app is the title of the book, and they are actually individual book title apps, okay? And I'm going to do a whole online course about this in October, so this is just a little preview, a taste of what you might learn about in that course. So it's like there's a body of literature now that is worth learning about and kind of understanding which are the publishers to watch in this area, which are the apps to watch, and then what kind of learning they're enabling. I think what's happening a little bit now is that the boundaries or definition of what a book is changing. So I'm going to talk about new ways to browse and search, video and audio-enabled learning, and social interaction within these books. So just by way of definition, a book app is not just text like you would read on your Kindle or your iBooks. It's not even a beautiful PDF that you can zoom into the images. It's not that. It's a standalone app for a smartphone or a tablet. And the advantage of it is that it takes advantage of the features of a device like audio, animation, zooming in, geolocation, and more things. So one of the first ones that came out that a lot of people have heard of is this one called The Elements. Anybody heard of this one? A few people, yeah. What it is it's an app that's all about the periodic table of elements in chemistry. And I hated chemistry in high school, but I love this app. It's beautiful, and it's just gorgeous. In fact, I should probably just open it up over here if I have it. I don't know if I have it on this iPad. Let's see if I have it. Sorry, I didn't have enough time to prepare a lot of live demos because I was working on a keynote. So anyway, I'll just show you the screenshot here. What it does is it lets you browse each element and see real-world objects that are made of that element, and then swirl around and look at them in almost 3D. And it's connected to the Wolfram Alpha database, so you can read all the individual interesting facts about each element. So this was the first one that came out when the iPad was really early, and it got a lot of press because it was the first kind of book app that was really taking advantage of the medium. Since then, there have been a whole bunch more. Yeah, you had a question?
Yeah, you said it was connected to the Wolfram Alpha. Would you have to have had that particular app downloaded to that?
It just goes right to the Wolfram Alpha website through the app. So you don't need the Wolfram Alpha app to use that feature in here.
Okay.
Another app that we are going to look at a little video of is called London, the City Through Time. And because of the London Olympics, there's a lot of push to put out apps about London now. And this one is a very beautifully designed one. And I'm going to show you their promotional video for a moment. It's all about the history of London. Oops, sorry. Thought I had a clickable. Let's see. Sound guy, do we have a... Is there a text right here? You guys hook up the sound. Goes in right there. We did it this morning. Anyway, it's not essential, it's just music. Just watch the video. Awesome people. So it's got interviews with people in it. Okay, so with that, let me just pause here. What you can see that they've done there is they have the entire, I have it listed here? No. The entire Encyclopedia of the History of London is built into this app, like all the texts. So in the old world, you would have gone to your library and found this reference reference book, right? And page through it with all the stuff, but now it's all into this app where you can watch embedded videos, embedded interviews with people, look at a whole bunch of historical documents, search by the map, and like if you're in London, you can press a button and see where you're at. It's just got loads and loads of features. I'll show a few more. I've got a few slides into this. So it's really a fully multimedia book, and in spite of the fact that it makes it look kind of frantic when you're watching the promotional video because they're trying to show everything so fast, you can have a very nice experience when you sit down with this, and you can take your own route through the app and go very slowly and read carefully all the whatever you care about, and take multiple paths through it. So it's just a beautiful, wonderful app, and it's just one good example of what people are doing when a book is an app. So as you can see, the future of reading is all about shifting boundaries and enabling better learning and understanding. And what even is a book, right? So some of the interesting aspects that we're going to look at are different ways to browse and search, video and audio-enabled learning, and social interaction. Now, a couple of examples from here I showed you already this morning, so I'm going to skip those. But let's talk about figuring out where you are in the book. This is an app that doesn't exist anymore. I forget the name of it, but you know how like when you're reading a Kindle book, and it does have a little thing that tells you how far you are into it, but it doesn't feel quite right, like compared to a printed book. You know, everybody's nodding at it. It's like, it's hard to tell, like, get that feeling of how far you are into the book. So people are experimenting with different ways to show it, and in this app, which again doesn't exist anymore, they're putting this sort of visual here with a more 3D book-like thing. I don't know how successful that is, but they're trying to get there. But there is a company that has an app that's doing a better job, in my opinion, and it's called Inkling, and they're a textbook platform for major textbook publishers are using them to publish their textbooks. So if you go to inkling.com, you can sign up for a free account, and many of these textbooks are quite expensive, like regularly $95, now $74.99, but you don't have to buy those because for almost every book in there, they have a free sample chapter that you can download, so you can try it. And they also have a few consumer books in there, like for $9.99. So it's worth taking a look at this. Here's some of their consumer titles. There's The Better Vegan Book and Speakeasy Cocktails and fun stuff like that. So when you go and open one of their, I recommend getting one of these if you have an iPad. Sign up for a free account and just download a free chapter. So this is what it looks like. I got this textbook called Living with Art, and I got chapter 5 for free. And you can see here that I can scroll through it vertically, and there's a little thing down the edge that's kind of subtle, but there's little dots here. But that's not the main thing I want to show you. But as you go into the book, sorry, I didn't hit that on my head. It has a more informative little thing there that shows you how much is left. These little bars show you like the sections of the book, so you can kind of see, oh, I'm almost to the end of a long section, and next comes a short section, and that kind of thing. And so here's an article that I'm reading. And then if you keep swiping to the right, you can go deeper. Oh, here it is up close, that little nav bar. And the good thing is that they have page numbers that match the printed editions. It says page 117 there, so if some people have the print book and some people have the app, you can coordinate. And scrolling again back at this level, you can read articles and you can see the artwork. You can tap into them, and when you tap on the artwork, you get a bigger version. But within it, each one you're scrolling vertically. But to go back up a level, you're swiping horizontally. So if you go to their website, inkling.com, you can get a free account there. And what's nice is that you can also view your textbooks in your web browser too. So it's doing this sort of ecosystem thing like Evernote does. I like that. So that's a good example of making some advances in the feeling of how far you are through the book and how much is left. Here's another one that's actually a magazine. It's Popular Mechanics, which is available on the newsstand of Apple. And they've got this nice, instead of tiny thumbnails that you can't see, they have big thumbnails across the bottom. And you can actually see some of the stories in the magazine. They also have this colorful bar across the bottom that corresponds to the different sections of the magazine. So right now I'm in the Tech Watch section, which is blue. And then, oh, it was orange, and then now I'm in the DIY section of the magazine, which is blue. And these little indicators here kind of show you where you are. So it's really easy to just swipe back and forth, these little things pop up, and to easily skip around through the magazine and see enough of it so you can tell where you are and how much is left. I'd like to see more of that kind of interface coming into our books so that we could really get more of a sense of where we are. I think it's like, you know in the old days when they first made pictures, like motion pictures, and they put the film camera in front of the train track and just have it steady and take a movie of the train going by, because they were still thinking like still photographer, and they didn't realize about editing and cutting and all that. We're kind of like at that stage now with books. You know, we're just kind of imitating the old world of the physical books, you know, and having this thing that looks like, you know, the bookmark and the pages and everything. But what if we could do something completely different that actually made more sense on this new medium? There's a lot to explore there. Oh yeah, here's the color-coded sections. So back on that London app, they have a nice way of browsing by location too, because all these devices have location awareness, right? So they know where you are. So if you enable that, when I tapped on this, of course, I was in Boston, I was not in London. But if I was in London, it would show me where I was on the map, and I could look around and then read articles about places near me. But I just started browsing, and I found the British Library, and I tapped on that, and I could start to read the article and everything about the British Library. And I could change it to the satellite view and look around. And you can also browse by timeline. They have a really nice timeline with multiple layers here. So if you look at the top, you can see it's by century, like 19th century we're in here, and then there's era, like we're in the Victorian era, and then you can see Queen Victoria, like which royal person. And then they have this little stripe with the icons for each year and kind of important events that happened in that year. And then down here is the actual events that you can tap on, and down here is thumbnails of the pages of the book. So there's just, as you swipe it, these layers kind of move in different directions. In fact, maybe I can show you that one live. Over here on that screen there. Let's see if I can. So when I did this, it was a webinar, so they wouldn't let me show live videos, so I had to let people watch things on their own. So if we can tap on the browse on the map thing. Can you see that screen okay? Okay. So here we are, and I'm just going to zoom in and pick something. Let's see. Royal Festival Hall. Tap on that, and I can read all about it, and I can look at the pictures and swipe through them, and so forth. And I'm going to show you that timeline. So let me find it here. They have audio tours in here, browse by subject, by people. I haven't used this enough to get really familiar with it. My London, life in London. Oh, here we go, timeline. So again, I can just see how when I swipe one of these, the year moves faster underneath it? So I can kind of go more towards something newer and then pick a year, 1982, and browse from there. So there's just a lot of nice ways to browse. I really like that app.
Cool.
Yeah.
So where did the content come from for this?
It came from the complete text of the London Encyclopedia, which is a 1,000-page monster source book.
Okay.
That's the first bullet right here.
Okay.
And they also added 2,000 rare prints, works of art, and photos. 35 documentary films are embedded in here. 71 zoomable panoramas of images of art objects in museums. 20 spinnable artifacts, audio tours from the Blue Badge Guides, which is a published book series. And there's a My London section where famous Londoners reveal their favorite parts of town. So it was like this collaborative venture between some museums and publishers. It was a big production, and they put everything into it. So it costs a lot to develop these kind of apps, but some people are putting a lot of money into this, especially some major cultural institutions and museums are starting to do this. So it's interesting to see. But it made me kind of wonder, like, someday would we have to have the devices as well as the content in order to make these available to people? Would you have a reading room where there's a bunch of iPads and they're all preloaded with books like this, and you would come in and use them, like a reference room? I don't know. It's kind of interesting. So we already looked at the voice search this morning, so I won't do that, but you can search by voice. And we looked at the visual search, Leaf Snap, this morning, so I won't do that. But there's some other visuals that I'd like to show. There's a really good app called, just came out, called the Leonardo da Vinci Anatomy app. Let me see if I can bring it up over here. I'm going to play the introduction. Of course, I don't have a sound cord. But you can see it's slowly zooming in over here. Can I plug the iPad sound into the speaker?
The monkeys have an exploring process. There is one that is more exploring than most. Lost to the book in 400 years.
Yeah, I'm starting again. Oops, sorry.
Behind the walls of Windsor Castle lie a host of treasures. I'm Martin Clayton, curator of the Royal Collection of Drawings, and some of these treasures are in my care. Among this trove of extraordinary works, there is one that is more extraordinary than most. Lost to the world for 400 years, Leonardo da Vinci's most ambitious undertaking of all. It's not so much a work of art as a landmark in science, because the man who gave the world the Mona Lisa also charted the human body before anyone knew the way. Leonardo's drawings are a marriage of his brilliant scientific brain and his superb artistry. He was hundreds of years ahead of his time, but he never got to publish his findings, and the world never knew how far he travelled. It's time to showcase Leonardo da Vinci's achievements in anatomy in a way they've never been seen before. This is a journey into a lost masterpiece.
Okay, so, looking back over here at my slides, when you go into the book, well, I can do it here too, you can either pick the drawings or the story. So if I tap on the drawing side, you can scroll through all sorts of different anatomy drawings, like this one. I'll go back here. And I want to show you on my slide over here, because I already got it set up. So you can view these in a nice close-up way that's zoomable, like if you were in the real museum. Like here, I'm going to zoom one. I'm just taking my fingers and zooming in on that foot there, the way he drew it. Funny toenails. I love, with art objects and manuscripts, being able to zoom like that on the iPad, because it's a different experience that you would have in a museum or archives, that you wouldn't be able to touch those things. But with this, it's even more intimate. And what's really cool for many of these images is that he wrote some text on them, and of course it's all in, I don't know, Italian or Latin or something. See this one? But there's a little button at the bottom that says original, which is on right now, but I can tap translated, and it immediately translates into English. Isn't that cool? And I can zoom in, and I can read exactly what he wrote about that. You wouldn't be able to do that in real life, right? So, I think that's super added value for this kind of content, and it's really showing someone who's taking advantage of the medium here. Here's some slides I have about it, showing the translation to English on this one here. So when I saw that, I was just like, wow, this is so cool. It also has some, I don't know if I can find it quickly enough to show it live, but on the slides here, it has some animations in it too, and they talk about what he got right, because he was so ahead of his time, and what he got wrong. So they show a modern animation of the beating heart, and they talk about how the heart really beats a little bit different than how he thought it did. And you can swirl around with your fingers and look at it kind of like that Heart Pro app, and just see, oh, I'm on the Heart Pro app now, but you can see that they're building in all of these cool features so that you can understand, there's more understanding going on here about, you know, what did he get right, what did he get wrong, and just being able to show it visually side by side is just so wonderful. So I really like that app. And we already talked about the Heart Pro app this morning, so I won't go into that, but again, that's more about visuals that you can touch. And there's audio-enabled learning, and I do want to show this one on my iPad. You know the Petersons Guides, like nature guides, like bird watching and stuff? They have some really cool apps. So I have this one from the Petersons Birds in North America, and I'm going to tap on it here on my iPad and bring it up. And I'm going to show you how this works. I'm going to pick loons. And here I am, there's different kinds of loons, and there's pictures over here. So let's tap on the red-throated loon, which I zoomed in, and then I'll tap on these audio. Isn't that cool? Here's another kind of loon. I guess that's the common loon. So this is, you can have it on your iPhone too, you can have it in your pocket. I guess you can play some good practical jokes with this app. But, I mean, look at these old pile of books there. You recognize those blue books, you know, those field guides, you know, these are starting to be replaced by this kind of thing on your phone, in your pocket, you know, and you can hear the sounds, which is added value. One time, I had another app, I think it's called Chirp USA, and there's a lot of bird call apps in the store, and I was sitting out on my back porch with a friend of mine, and I was playing with the app, and he thought it was really birds out in the yard. He's like, what's that bird? Like, you know, I'm just app. It was just my iPhone. I had a pretty good example of it. So they also have a very nice icon. I love their bird icon. It's pleasant to see it on my iPad screen there.
You know what it sounds like.
And it already shows you these.
People.
Okay, so let's talk about some more innovations in visual and sound design. And that's happening in the world of comics and graphic novels. Anybody here read comics on their iPad? Yeah, a few people. Aren't they cool? It's like, there's a bunch of different comic book apps, and one of my favorite ones is called Comics X. Where's the comment on here? It says Comics. It says Comics X. And all of them work in a pretty similar way, where the app is usually free, and then they have a store within it where you can buy individual issues. And they have a wide variety of publications. And I think here, if we go to my library, let's see, let me just go to the screen here. They have all the standard like Batman and Marvel and all that kind of stuff, but they also have, you can browse by genre and you can get to some of the more independent comics. So here's my little collection of some sort of indies where I just got a few sample chapters. And if you go into that, let me see if I can actually do this here. What I like is the way that it zooms from panel to panel. So let's go into this one called Bayou. So I'm in the middle of the book here. Remember where I left off. So normally if you swipe, you just go to the next complete panel. But another nice thing is if you double tap, it zooms into just that panel. And if you swipe again, it stays zoomed in, so it's like one panel at a time, where you can go back. And it just zooms to exactly the size that it is, so that you can really see it. So I really like pretty much all these work this way, and it helps you see the artwork in such a way that you might not notice as well when you're reading it in print. And I used to be in a book club for reading graphic novels together, and what I learned from that is I tend to read them too quickly, and I miss a lot of things, because you can, because there's only a few words, and you just kind of go through it. And when we started having book club discussions about it, I'm like, wow, I didn't even notice that. People would point out things about the artwork. What I noticed is reading them on the iPad, I start to notice those details a lot more about exactly how things are drawn. So, so those are really cool. But that's not the end of the story about innovations with graphic novels. There's an even better one that broke all previous boundaries about innovation in comics, and that's this one called CIA Operation Ajax. And I first heard about this one when I went to South by Southwest last March, and the producers of it were there. They did this incredible demo of it. It was like a whole team of people. It was like doing a major film production or something. They had sound designers and artists and writers and a producer and everything. Cast of thousands. It cost them lots of money to make this, but they decided not to make it just like all the other comic book apps with those zooms, but they decided to see what else you could do with the artwork in this format. So I want to show you a little video of this. No. It's a promotional video, but it shows what it does. Sound.
Introducing Operation Ajax for the iPad, based on actual events and the CIA's involvement in overthrowing the Iranian government. A bold and original interactive graphic novel that redefines digital comics and the art of storytelling in 210 handcrafted pages. Navigating the comic is easy and intuitive. Tap or swipe to read the next page or to go back. Touching the middle of the screen gives you more control and lets you dive deeper into the rich history surrounding the story. At the bottom of the screen, we can flip through pages. It's also easy to jump to different chapters. A handy guide can be called out to provide a synopsis of the cast of characters. Occasionally, you'll see a star while reading. Touch it to pull up additional information about key story points, historical documents that have only recently been declassified, and even newsreels from the era. Operation Ajax by Cognito Comics. Experience it at the App Store.
Did you notice what they're doing with layering there? I don't know why I can't get this orientation to turn around. Oops, maybe that'll fix it. I just unplugged it by mistake and I'll plug it back in. And now it'll show the right orientation. Okay, here we go. So I'm just swiping. Sorry. And it does a lot of interesting layering in a way that really gives you a lot of details that Do you see how the different layers kind of slowly move up on top of each other and then move? And it does things, it breaks out of that panel thing, and it does things that you can do on here that you couldn't do in a book. Though there is a book version of this, a printed book version. And not only that, it has a whole bunch of extra supplementary material. So this is like fictionalized, but it's based on some true events. And it has a whole bunch of other stuff in there, like historical documents that you can look at and read up on. And I think I have some slides. Did I take them out? I guess I did. Anyway, you saw that in the video. So again, it's really trying to take advantage of the platform and do things that you couldn't do in the old work, kind of break the old boundaries. And I like it when people are doing this. This is probably just the first of many that will do that kind of thing. Another feature is social interaction. So going back to those Inkling textbooks, they have a thing where if the whole class is using the textbook, you can sign up to friend each other within the textbook and then talk to each other about what you're reading, so that you can type your comments in and you can ask questions of the teacher and each other, and it's all built within the actual textbook, which is interesting. So we might see more of this inside of books. So this made me think, I wonder if we should be learning how to make these interactive books, or working with students on making interactive books. It's different than making a regular Kindle book or something. So there are some different programs that make it theoretically easy to make one of these. I haven't tried them yet, but I hope to early next year. One of the most popular ones is iBooks Author, and that's supposed to be very easy to use. It's a Mac program for creating enhanced ebooks for the iBook store. And in that platform, you can make, if you make one that you're going to give away for free, you can put it in the Apple Store or anywhere else you want. And if you make one that you're going to sell, it's just like making an app. Apple will take the 30% cut and it'll go in your store. If you want to work on other platforms besides Apple, this one here, BookType, is an open source enhanced ebook creator that works on many different platforms. I haven't tried it, but I've heard good things about it. And then Inkling is the sort of professional platform that's used by these big textbook publishers within the Inkling one that I showed you. And then down here in the lower left is Book Creator, which is just an iPad app, an iPhone app. I think maybe it's just iPad. That's for a simple way, like maybe you could teach some kids to make an interactive ebook. So I might try starting with that one because it's supposed to be super simple. It's just an iPad app. Haven't tried it yet. So there is a lot more to explore in this area. I've been reading up on this, and oh my God, there's just so many things to think about. It's almost overwhelming. But what I'm going to do is when I teach this class beginning in October online, I'm going to pull out what I think are the most important and interesting things for librarians to care about and package it up into a 4-week class that you can do online. It'll have a bunch of videos in there of me demonstrating these apps. It'll have articles to read, a discussion forum, and optional live chats once a week. And these are some of the different things that are being experimented about in these books. And I'm going to pick out just what seems, here's some more, what seems to be the important one. Like books have trailers now, just like movies do. There's things like, if you look at a lot of the children's books, they let you be the narrator and record your own voice in it, which is nice. There's a ton going on with children's books here that are really nice. There's build your own book, adaptive content, location-aware text, all sorts of different innovations going on. Probably a lot of these things will die out and just be sort of fads, but certain ones I think will last. And we're just at that early stage right now with people innovating and trying different things. So again, I think we should be app literate. This is the web page for the course if you want to be notified when it's ready. Actually, it is ready on ALA's site. So if you go here, you will find a link. And if you want to sign up, you can do that anytime through ALA. But I'm also going to offer a self-study version that you can do for a lower price. So if you click that notify me button, I will email you when I have that ready. Probably by November, I'll have a self-study version that you can do. And my self-study versions are usually half the price of the real-time ones. So I talked about that. And also my other course, Apps for Librarians, is live right now. I invite you to sign up for that. It has both one that happens during predefined periods of time. The next one starts in September, or you can do the self-study version anytime. And those are both linked from this webpage here. Again, sign up to be notified. More courses coming soon, next year. And these are 2 excellent books if you want to read about this topic. One is called Book, A Futurist Manifesto, and one is called Breaking the Page. And right now, Breaking the Page is it's like a beta book. It's in preview right now, so you can download that preview for free. And the author hasn't written the rest of the book yet, but he's going to do it based on feedback from his audience, which I love. And these are both published by O'Reilly, which is doing the right thing with making things available both for free and for sale, just like in the open source world. So no DRM, all that. Given in multiple formats. So I do recommend these 2 books if you're interested just in reading up in this area. And there I am. You can follow me on Twitter. So now, do you have some questions, thoughts, ideas? Yeah.
I'm worried about preservation. So
Oh,
how
yeah.
are these going to be read in 50, 40, 30
That's
years
right.
from now, 100 years?
Right. It makes you think you have to preserve the devices, and maybe some of them will just be lost. I don't know. You know.
It's worrisome.
It is.
Because take that, the history of England, for example. That is so rich and so such good content, but preserving it will probably be a nightmare.
Yeah. I don't have any easy answers to that.
It's something I think our community
That's
needs
right.
to be concerned about.
Think about it. Yes.
If we don't worry about it, I don't think the publishers are going to worry.
That's right.
They're not going to be around in the future.
Right.
Most of them anyway.
Right.
So it's our community that really needs to think about this.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, a couple things. One, I was wondering, is connection needed for a lot of these apps? So you mentioned like the Bird app. Do you, if you're...
A lot of them are standalone. That Bird one is standalone. It takes a long time to download it because it's got all those audio files embedded in it. Most of these book apps tend to be standalone, with the exception of like when you connect to Wolfram Alpha from the Elements app, because that's some apps have what's called an in-app browser, so it's like a web browser within the app. And for those, if there is a feature like that, you have to have an internet connection. But most of these ones I've noticed tend to package it all up in a thing that's sort of self-contained that you can read offline.
And the other question was, you mentioned iBooks author, and they're trying to incorporate some of these audio-video elements, 3D model elements. How does that square versus kind of a full-on app experience in your...
Right, that's an interesting middle ground. Like, if you buy what's called an enhanced ebook in the iBooks store on the Apple platform, if you want to buy a good one, there's this book called Paperless, and it's all about how to go paper-free in your life. And what it is, it's mostly text, but it has a few embedded videos that the author made that are really good short videos that give you tips on how to scan all your documents and use Evernote and save everything online. That's a good book called Paperless. Anyway, those kind of apps only run on the Apple platform, and they pretty much are just text with some embedded videos because they are within the iBooks app, which mostly is just it allows for pictures and text and videos, but it doesn't allow for like all these other things like location awareness and a lot of zooming and all these other features that you saw. It's sort of like a middle ground between a text-only book and a full-fledged app. It's just an enhanced book within that one app. So it's getting confusing, isn't it? But it's worth exploring those too, I think, and Paperless is one of the best books I've seen in that format. Another book that's like that is actually on the Kindle platform. They have a few of these now called enhanced books. That book I mentioned this morning called Creating Innovators by Tony Wagner, you can buy that just as the text Kindle book, but you can also buy one that has embedded videos. So I bought that. If you read the reviews of it on Amazon, everyone's complaining because when it first came out, you couldn't download it. It would just hang every time. And so I'm like, I paid for this, I can't read it, I'm mad. But eventually they fixed that, they put out a new edition, and now I've got it on my iPad, and it's a really nice thing because it has these embedded videos, interviews with the parents of these innovative kids and all of that. So I don't know where that is going to go. So both Amazon and iBooks are experimenting with just embedding videos. It almost seems a little gimmicky to me to just throw some videos in there. I think where more of the innovation is happening is over here on these full-fledged apps. But again, you have to buy them as individual titles, so then you have that problem of trying to remember, well, where did I get that? Was I reading that in iBooks or Amazon, or did I buy it as an app, and is it on my device? And it's this fragmentation problem. So there's a lot of problems with all this stuff right now, but that's just what happens when you're in an early stage innovation time. Some things work, some things don't work.
So, in dealing with the different apps, and I think it was great that you showed several ones that did sort of the same thing. Mm-hmm. How do you pick which one you're going to recommend to your faculty or staff or students?
Yeah, well, with the apps in general, I follow a lot of blogs that review apps, like that App Advice. And also, I've noticed that a lot of other tech websites, you know, like Wired.com or Mashable, just sort of the standard tech websites, will often review apps. And there's sites I'm following anyway for other tech reasons. For the books, I find a lot of journals that do book reviews are starting to review these book apps too, especially in the world of children's books. I think there's a need for more of us to write good reviews about these apps and to be the ones who know how to evaluate them. And that's what one of the things I teach in my courses is what are the criteria you should be judging these against, and how do you write a good review of an app or a book app. So I think there's a need for more of that. Does anyone else have sources that they follow that tells them about good apps? Okay. I do like that one called App Advice, which is both a website and an app. And there's a whole bunch of other ones too. I'm going to make a new video called Keeping Up for my Apps4Librarians course, which is in session right now. It was just, I've been updating all my videos from last time, and that was the very last one. I didn't have time to update it. So I'm going to be researching a few new sources and making a new video for that class. So I'll have more of an answer after I finish that in a couple of weeks.
There's one category that you haven't touched on, but anybody who uses an iPad has to know about, and that's gaming. Have you guys done anything with gaming?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, the whole gaming thing is interesting. One of the reasons I haven't focused on gaming, though I do think it's a place where a lot of innovation is happening, is because I think people have a stereotype in their mind that, oh, games, they're just like not so good and they're not about serious learning, but that's not true at all anymore. Like, there's a lot of serious learning happening within game platforms, and there's this word, that gamification, which is the idea that games are being used to motivate people to do the right thing, like to take care of their health and to compete for like good habits and stuff like that. Jane McGonigal wrote this book called Reality is Broken, and I heard her speak at South by Southwest, and she's all about using games to promote social good, because they found that people like to compete and have leaderboards and compete for doing the right thing. So people are looking at the psychology of gaming and how to motivate people through game dynamics, which all these young people have grown up with. It's just in their blood, you know, like. So I think that's a whole other area that's ripe for us to learn about and experiment with, but I just personally haven't gone there yet because I'm kind of overwhelmed with all this other stuff. Other questions? What do you guys think you're going to do with this knowledge, now that you're a little bit overwhelmed and like, I mean, what are you going to talk about? Like, I'm kind of curious, what is your reaction to all of this?
I'm going to go buy an iPad.
Cool. We're trying to get iPads for all our librarians. It's being discussed by our higher-ups this week whether they can fund it, but I hope they do. I think we tried to make a good case for it, because we should just be literate with this stuff. Other thoughts?
I'm going back to my apps. Download my apps.
All right. Yeah, use them. Get familiar. All right. People are downloading them as we speak. Other thoughts?
Well, I think you've done what I sort of have to say here for a while, having apps for achievement.
Oh, yeah.
Sort of putting it out, maybe on posters, or maybe putting it into some sort of workshop that we do.
Apps for achievement? Like what kinds of achievement?
Well, I'm thinking in terms of, primarily undergraduate students.
Mhm.
The apps, you mentioned you're using some of the apps for the databases.
Yeah.
Just pulling some key lines that students would use to,
Right.
in terms of their understanding.
Right. I could see making some kind of scavenger hunt around apps or some kind of game framework for discovering important things about the libraries. There's stuff going on in that world. In fact, I can't think of his name, but there was a professor from Syracuse or Cornell or something who came and did an internship at the Media Lab, and he talked to a bunch of us. He got a bunch of MIT students to make this sort of secret game within the libraries that you could happen upon by discovering some little thing in the stacks, and then you would start to notice if you were a geek that it had Morse code around the edges, and then it would say, oh, this person has been kidnapped and they need help, but it's all a big fictional fantasy game, you know, and you would start to follow all these things and end up learning things along the way, and it would all be secret, you know, like, 'cause people like this kind of mystery discovery thing. So he did this sort of internship and showed us what the students developed, and so far we haven't done anything with it, but I think that's a really cool idea, especially for MIT culture, where they're into that kind of thing. Any other thoughts?
Well, I was telling you that I've had some consultations with faculty about, you know, I have an iPad now, I want to use it for XYZ, and I think I had been thinking a lot about what I learned most about was actually interviewing them about what they were using and what they had heard of and what they wanted, and I think looking at what our community is doing and what they're using and sort of building on that based on what you have put here and try to, you know, tailor it to the different kinds of disciplines and how people are actually working.
Right, I think that makes total sense.
Well, the Sync app that you talked about, I'm the distance education librarian here,
and I'm going to totally use that with my distance as students.
All right. I'd love to hear how it
I
goes.
tweeted about it, and they tweeted back that they're excited to find
Oh,
it.
great. I've never used it in real life except for these kinds of demos, so I'd love to hear how it works for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm excited about it.
Great.
I use a similar one, Air Sketch,
Air Sketch, I haven't heard of that one.
but I use it in my instruction sessions.
Oh, cool. How does it?
PDF up and we check off our objectives.
Oh, nice.
Venn diagram. We do all kinds of things.
So people are watching you annotate it?
Right, well, and I can, because it's on my iPad, I can walk around.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Cool. Other thoughts, comments? Yeah.
As our librarian, we're going to, on our library page, we're going to set up apps for the students and the faculty.
Oh.
Just suggested apps, and just have it linked to the iTunes instead of trying to explain it or anything. We're just going to do the icons.
Great.
shots.
And where will you have that? Like on individual iPads or on the web?
It'll be on our library webpage.
Okay,
It'll
great.
just say apps, suggested apps.
Great. And they'll link to the iTunes store?
Right. So all of them have the link.
Great.
We're working on it.
Is anyone using the Apple Volume Purchase Program for apps? How's that working for you?
Very, very good.
Yeah?
I have iPads in our library, 30 of them. We have apps and it's a few max. It is wonderful.
Cool.
I have no problem whatsoever. Just trying to log in. I've never tried to log in from the iPad. I can do it on the computer to log in. But it's amazing.
So your institution has an agreement with Apple and you can buy them in bulk?
What we do is we put so much money in our account, and then I have a password, and I'll just go, if they'll come across the college what they want, I'll just go sign in, download the code, the spreadsheet, and then divide the codes up, you know.
That's great. We haven't done that yet, but we do use the iTunes gift cards, and we give those to our staff when they get an iPad, and we just keep a spreadsheet on Google Docs where we subtract as we spend it, because people like to put it on their own personal accounts so that everything's integrated for them. And I was just at a session where the Apple rep came and talked to people who do tech support at MIT, and he said that, in the enterprise, even in businesses, people are bringing their iPads to work and using it for serious business, but they can't be controlled in the way that IT traditionally controls computers or even distributed that way. The Apple has designed these as personal devices, and so they're saying don't even try to control it. Basically, think of apps as a consumable. And if you are letting people buy apps on institutional money and they leave, those apps go with them. They should be on their personal account. Don't even try to keep them making for 99 cents. Come on, so that actually makes sense for us.
And that's the difference from us. All the iPads that we have are used by they're college owned.
Okay.
And they're distributed, so we don't.
And the apps belong to the college?
Personal iPad, it has to be put on a college-owned iPad.
That's interesting. Yeah, at MIT, people are very individualistic, and I don't think they would want to have those. But it's interesting to see it's different institutional cultures.
Yeah, we've done, our department all has university paper iPads, where we've got apps using gift cards. And there are, and we took a little bit of negotiation, but they're all on our personal accounts. So yeah, when we leave,
They'll just go with you.
we're leaving with $25 worth of apps. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think with all the work we've done.
Yeah.
It's a very good argument that the university's done.
Yeah. These price points are so low, I think it is wise to think of them like a consumable. It's like using like office supplies or something. It just gets used up and goes with you.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
What did you call it again?
The Apple Volume Purchase Program. You can Google that. It's on Apple's site. And your institution has, like a representative from your institution has to make an agreement with Apple, and then it's for your whole university or whatever, or for teachers in classrooms who want to get apps for their whole class. Anything else? Other thoughts? Okay. Oh, one more. Yeah.
I'm going to write one of these apps now.
All right.
I got to get a developer's license.
Well, check out either Elance or Odesk. You know those sites? Those are sites where you can hire freelance developers from around the world. You have to really vet them, but that's what a lot of people do to save money is they hire especially people from the Philippines who speak English well. And so if you want to make an app, there's a lot of stuff online about how to collaborate with people overseas and do that and save money. Because it's very expensive to hire developers in the US, unless you get a student or something. But people, since this is so in demand, developers charge big bucks, especially if they're very good and they have a good reputation. But on the other hand, sometimes people are just learning it like music librarian has a 16-year-old son who recently got an iPad app approved in the App Store. And it's so great to see that, because a year ago I met his son, he was 15, and he had just gotten his iPad, and he was the first kid in the school to get one, and he was usually very shy and not doing so well in school, and now he's like Mr. Super Achiever Geek who's popular with everybody because he's the iPad kid, you know. And now he's got an app in the App Store. I'm so jealous, I wish I had an app in the App Store. So I'm anxious to talk to him about how he did it, how he learned to build an app, because you have to learn Objective-C, which has a learning curve, and there are like apps for making apps, and I heard that very nice session earlier today, which was how to make mobile websites. But there are also apps for making actual native apps, like one is called App Maker, and another one is called Red Foundry. And it's on my to-do list to explore those one day. I played with App Maker a little bit, and it's very RSS feed based, which makes it easy to get content into it. But I just haven't had time to fully work with it. You have to get an Apple developer's license, which I have one just to experiment. It's $99 a year. Though I have to decide that I'm going to renew it, because I don't have time to make an app right now. But anyway, if you want to explore that, there's a whole world of app development, but it's pretty time-consuming, I think. So I kind of like to collaborate with someone who's a real developer and be more the brains behind it and user interface person. Any other thoughts?